Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
Would you believe I briefly, for just 1 millisecond, couldn't remember your name? I think that segment of memory was occupied with the name of the podcast that I just had to ask what it was. Yes. So yes, there was a memory clash as one went out the door and the other one had to come in. Yes. How has your week been?
It's certainly yep. It has.
Good.
Yep, not much happened. Just
You went out
I did,
into that bold, brave new world.
and then I came back.
You did. Which is fortunate
Yes.
for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I don't know how I'd do this podcast without you.
Probably with someone else.
Don't know who. On that note, if there's anyone out there listening, are you interested in a... Okay. I've gone on some walks too. I've gone on some swim. Singular.
Yep.
We've had a number of days of very nice weather, and yes, I wasn't going to let the summer slip by. Tasmania is famous for its variability in weather, but when we have some nice days, yes, we can have some very, very decent days, and I took advantage of one of those, went for a walk, went for a swim and cooled off, and it was cool. The Derwent River is only a stone's throw away from Antarctic waters. But no, it was good. Yes, cooled off, and then within minutes I was roasting again on the walk back home. So, I do have to say something right now. I'd like to welcome a listener from Bangladesh.
Right.
Welcome to our dear listener from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope you're enjoying it, and I hope all of our dear listeners are enjoying this podcast, especially the large swathes of rubbish that get cut out. Speaking of Bangladesh, how much coastal area has Bangladesh?
Pretty sure it's... no, it's not landlocked. It does have a coast. Just not very... Well, the thing about coastal length is that it's a fractal, and so it's technically infinite.
One of our dear listeners will be very glad of that statement. So it does have...
It does have a coast. It's a fiddly coast
that fronts onto
the Bay of Bengal.
Ah, okay. So they do have somewhat of a life aquatic.
Yes.
In Bangladesh. Good.
That's a long walk you're taking there.
I thought it was a mighty fine segue. Life aquatic. Somebody else has a life aquatic, and that is...
Steve Zissou.
I was going to say Jacques Cousteau, but that's what we're watching today.
It is.
It's a Wes Anderson film recommended by one of our dear listeners, and we're going to watch it. I had to track it down because it wasn't streamed on any streaming service. And so I bought a second-hand copy.
And it is very second-hand.
It is definitely not still under wraps. I
Nope.
think this has passed through many hands and many DVD players, and possibly a scouring pad or two. Looking at the surface of the disc, yeah. So
which will make it an awful shame if it doesn't.
It will.
play.
We don't know what we're going to
No.
do.
We're definitely not going to use that new streaming service that became a part of another streaming service we already own about 24 hours before we recorded this.
Yes, the dear listener that recommended this waited until I got my hands on a second-hand copy of this to announce that it is now on a streaming service.
Well,
I hold him personally responsible
we've
for delaying that news.
known that the streaming service would be coming for a while, and we probably should have suspected that something like this would be on it, seeing as it's a touchstone film.
Yeah. All right, to be fair, our dear listener had no idea that it was going to be on the new streaming service. It is giving us a lifeline, however, if the DVD explodes in our DVD player due to the fragile nature of it, due to the structural integrity being so compromised by the large gouges in it. We'll be able to watch it somewhere else. How long has this opening gone for? I reckon we could stretch it out for 15. Especially considering our dear listener that recommended this film is threatening not to listen to this podcast for fear that we may rubbish it.
Right.
So we are under strict instructions to enjoy it thoroughly. And for me to possibly sway my somewhat negative opinions that have been expressed towards a certain Bill Murray in other directions. I can use that energy more wisely, it has been suggested. So, we are going to watch The Life Aquatic. Thomas, can you give us an inkling as to what we're in for?
Approximately 114 minutes.
Good. And a brief plot synopsis, if it's readable on the somewhat scarred case of the DVD. Can you read through
Yeah.
the multiple removed
The-
stickers that have
The
gone from one night only hiring to 1 week to 1 month?
the plastic's just a little scuffed, and the edges of the paper are not colourful anymore, but
Yeah.
yes. Internationally famous oceanographer Steve Zissou and his crew, Team Zissou, set sail on an expedition to hunt down the mysterious, elusive, possibly non-existent Jaguar Shark that killed Zissou's partner during the documentary filming of their latest adventure. They are joined on their voyage by a young airline co-pilot who may or may not be Zissou's son, a beautiful journalist assigned to write a profile of Zissou, and his estranged wife and co-producer Eleanor. They face overwhelming complications, including pirates, kidnapping, and bankruptcy.
So, an estranged wife. My wife has a strange husband. Anyway, that's what we're watching. Thomas is going to carefully remove the artifact from the case. He's going to place it into the DVD player, wait for the whirring noise as it gets up to speed, and then the shattering noise as shards of broken disc embed themselves into the interior walls of the DVD player.
Well, I don't know. It hasn't broken a disc yet, has it?
No, it hasn't. There's always a first time. We're going to watch it, and we'll share our thoughts on the other side.
Turn to side B.
Oh, there's no tricking you, is there, you mongrel? Okay, before we go anywhere, I need to set everyone's mind at ease as far as this film was concerned, the disc worked perfectly.
It did.
Yes, we did not have to resort to finding it on a streaming service, which was very, very good.
Despite having several more pits in it than should be in a DVD.
Indeed. If it were a car, it would look like somebody had keyed it. I think that's the phrase, isn't it?
Sure.
Whether you scrape the keys on...
Yeah.
Yes. So, what did you think?
Okay, I'm going to go on for a little bit here.
Are you?
Okay, so, it took me a while to warm up to this film, but by the end, it was going for me. The cinematography, very Wes Anderson, very, very solid. The acting, a little dry for me, but that sort of smoothed out towards the end. Musically, the original score is a little wacky for my taste, but the Bowie covers in Portuguese, those were top notch.
Yep.
Very happy with those. I'm not going to watch this film again. And that's for two reasons.
Right.
One, the front half is a little not quite there for me, and I don't think that would change on a second viewing. And two, there's a bunch of LGBTQ discriminatory language throughout it from protagonists, and no.
Right.
No.
Uh-huh.
And that's about it.
Okay. All right. I am going to attempt to not justify that, but to put it into context. All right. The time that it was actually set and the genre that it was portraying, that was exceedingly typical. It's interesting. I actually had quite a long conversation in general terms with one of our dear listeners, the dear listener who suggested watching this. Hi, Lee. We both... there's a number of years between us, but there's enough overlap of years of experience that we experienced growing up. And one of those things was the era of the... Now, what's it called? What's the... Okay, so we've got reality television these days. Mm-hmm. Okay. When I was growing up, there was an era of reality adventure shows where someone would go off ostensibly and have an adventure, and it was totally unscripted, and absolutely everything that happened that was caught on camera was caught on camera. It wasn't staged or anything like that. So we were led to believe, and so we believed growing up, you know. And it was only in our later years that we realised, no.
Disney and the Lemmings come to mind.
Disney, very much guilty of it. But as far as in Australia was concerned, we had the Leyland brothers, who would go off on their adventures in their Land Rover and would pick up animals along the way, and Albie Mangles was the epitome of what I just watched in this movie, which doesn't address your LGBTQ plus questions, but it is addressed in the fact that in both of those examples and in numerous others, it was extremely sexist. If I was to watch an Albie Mangles film now, there would be gratuitous shots of scantily clad assistant women off on these adventures with him, it was off, and I really honestly believe, because of the actors who were portraying those parts, and their own sexuality is concerned, they were taking the mickey, and reflecting the era of when this film was set. I hope that's not coming across as trying to justify it.
No.
Because I think they were actually making a point. Wes Anderson was making a point in reflecting the sexist nature of this genre, but this period of genre that we now see, exhibited in reality television to a great extent as well. The number of times where scandals have occurred on Big Brother, where people have been kicked out of the house for activities that are reprehensible. Those were being played out in real time, and so they could action it. But the example that I shared, as far as I think it was Alwie Mangles, would come to our primary school, or at least someone would come with his films and a projector, and we would spend an afternoon watching Alwie Mangles' adventures. And it was a highlight of the year that this adventure, and we would go off on this adventure with him, and he would stumble across this and stumble across that, and get stuck in precarious situations that he would miraculously get out of. But also, really, as far as the treatment of females in those shows, it was reprehensible as much as the Big Brother. Looking back now, they would basically... my understanding was the school would pay these guys to show these films in the schools as education, because ostensibly, they're out in the outback looking at this, and they're diving and looking at these animals, and so it was educational. But no, it was the equivalent of reality television for me growing up. But yeah, I really honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe that Wes Anderson was reflecting that rather than being offensive, I think. Certainly the actors who delivered certain lines, as far as their own sexuality is concerned, I don't think they would have taken those roles. Does any of that make sense?
All that being said,
yep,
and acknowledged,
yep,
it still makes me uncomfortable.
Yep,
is the thing.
Yep, and fair enough. And I certainly did too. But I think, I was looking at it through a different lens that you haven't grown up with. So, again, that sounds like trying to justify it. But, I was certainly, because of that experience, that past experience of this genre, there were so many nuances that I picked up that I could feel that you weren't getting, and I'm hoping that explanation would also make you realise why I possibly appreciated it a lot more than you did, taking the mickey out of probably something that Wes Anderson also grew up with. I very much enjoyed it. possibly to the same level as the Budapest Hotel. And again, for a lot of the same reasons. The whole blatant, this is not real. And yet, once you get over that hurdle, it becomes real. The ship sets. You know, and initially, you know, you've got these cameras passing by, a ship set that is split right down the middle for a lot of the shots, and follows people through the ship with a camera on the side. I wish you could see my hand actions. This would completely unrealistic, but once your brain gets over that hurdle, the storytelling using that works extremely well.
There is so much that is good about this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's just those hang-ups.
Yep. And fair enough. I can understand and do not belittle your hang-ups as far as that is concerned.
There is one important question.
Yes.
Has this changed your mind on Bill Murray?
Oh, I did note that as far as the tonality of the acting was concerned, it was so perfect for Bill Murray, and also for his acting style, his range of acting style, and interestingly, which initially I found very distracting, everyone else's acting style, there are so many actors in this that have so much greater range than Bill Murray, and I still believe that, but they actually toned theirs down to basically the same level of Bill Murray. And I think that's what you were reflecting, possibly, as far as the acting was a little stiff and maybe
dry.
And dry. Again, I think that was very, very deliberate. Not just to not make Bill Murray stand out, but to also reflect the genre again. The Albie Mangles and the Jacques Cousteaus, the monotonality of a Jacques Cousteau doco. I don't know whether the only experience you've had though.
It's that Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, very monotonal. The only thing that carries a Jacques Cousteau documentary is the amazing animals that you're seeing. The only redeeming feature of an Albie Mangles or a Leyland Brothers film was the scenery that you're seeing, because Albie Mangles, the Leyland Brothers, all very monotonal and terribly uncharismatic, in my opinion. Sorry, but again, I think that's what this was reflecting, that any body that appears in this type of genre is stereotypically, or has become stereotypically, monotonal and non-charismatic. The absolute deliberately unstated performances of a number of those actors was, I found, absolutely brilliant. And deliberate.
I can take dry. I do love a good bit of deadpan. It just felt like there was a bit much. And to too many. And again, I did warm to it over the film, but it starts at so very, very dry.
Yeah, I warmed to it a lot quicker. Again, I think because of the nodding knowingness of something that you don't have an experience of. So I loved it. I really did. And to get back to you, Bill Murray, he was perfect for that role. In saying that, he didn't have to make any effort, I don't think, to step up to the role. He fit the role to a T and fit the stereotype to a T. So he was just him being him. So there were times where he did actually have to elevate his emotions, and he struggled. but again, the nature of this film was such that he didn't have to do much to do enough to make it obvious that he stepped it up a level. So.
You touched on set design, and I want to circle back to just cinematographically beautiful. When you've got borders on the side, when a segment of the show is happening, very well done. The boat set that you said you could get past it not being real, it felt usually like you were looking through the walls, not that the walls weren't there.
Yeah. Yep.
And that can be a difficult thing to do. Yeah.
Yep. I feel your struggle with the bad taste that it still leaves you, and
I am less convinced that I will not watch it again now. But I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I would possibly have to try and dig up some Albie Mangles for you and let you see what we had to endure as kids growing up. That was our reality television. Kids growing up in suburbia, not really getting out into the thick of it and being shown Australia in our case. And I'm sure that, Disney did it for the US, having the going off in the adventure and completely staged.
I mentioned the Lemmings for a reason, because
Disney has a lot to answer for as far as the Lemmings are concerned.
For those who are not aware, Lemmings do not run off cliffs. That was entirely staged by Disney.
Yep.
And that has somehow managed to persist.
It's managed to persist, and I think I've mentioned this somewhere in another podcast before, but growing up, the encyclopedia that our family relied on, the family encyclopedia, was World Book Encyclopedia, and it made reference, it had the main article on lemmings, that I believe it was the main article that said that they do jump off cliffs, they have mass suicide events, and then there was another article written by someone entirely different somewhere else that made mention of lemmings, saying that was a myth. So you have these people poo-pooing Wikipedia for its accuracy. I still find it a lot more accurate than the encyclopedias that we grew up with as kids.
Yes, a lot of people are editing it, but a lot of people are watching it for errors.
Yeah, absolutely. I would certainly rely far more heavily on Wikipedia than the 1978 edition of World Book Encyclopedia. Sorry, I'm that's the year I'm guessing. It would have been my late primary school years that we got that. I should point out that my second eldest son sat through on this film as well, and his reaction at the end of it, I could tell that he was quite enjoying it, but quite flummoxed and perplexed by it. And at the end he said, what was the word he used? Was it bizarre or weird or...
I can't remember.
It was some word of incomprehension of what did I just watch. And then he said it reminded him of Fantastic Mr. Fox.
And I said, well, that was also Wes Anderson.
Yeah. I don't know whether anyone accuses him of being a one-trick pony, but I loved it.
He does that one trick so well.
He does, yep. So much so that I suddenly realised that the closing credits threw me because there was someone on screen, not on centre, and the credits rolled to the left of him, not on centre. So, but it wasn't symmetrical. And I know that sounds totally bizarre, but Wes Anderson has so much symmetricality to his shots and that wasn't, and yet it was really the only way he could do what he wanted to do. So he broke his own rules, I think, which was great.
He broke his own rules, but it still felt like a Wes Anderson shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I should point out that Lee has stated that he probably won't listen to this podcast because he's worried that we'll bag on his baby. But I will message him and say I think he's safe to listen to it.
Yeah. There have been some frank conversations.
Yep.
But no, I don't think either of us disliked the film.
No.
In its entirety.
No. You touched on the music, the David Bowie in Portuguese.
Yes.
Not just the fact that all of the songs were David Bowie's songs in Portuguese. They did play snippets of Bowie's originals throughout it as well, but so much of the music, just as the sets were a character of the film, an integral character to the film, the music was, and the way that it was presented. I don't want to spoil it too much, but the soundtrack was a physical as well as an oral character to the film. So fourth wall breaking, but again, another thing that once you accept that is happening, you just run with it. Do you have anything else you wish to?
No,
say?
I think that's about it.
Yep.
And I'm looking through the Facebook.
Oh, are we jumping to the next segment?
Well, assuming you've got nothing else.
Well, we do have to wrap up. I have nothing else to... Well, it's probably the most I have ever felt of I've missed so many things that I'm going to kick myself for not saying afterwards. But I think you get the vibe of how we both felt about this film. And for those who have Disney Plus, it is showing on the, what do they call it?
Star.
The Star service within Disney Plus. So,
if you have it, if you're listening from the US, you don't, because Hulu exists.
Okay. So in the US, you need to pick it up on Hulu.
Assuming it's on Hulu. No, it's on Hoopla.
It's on Hoopla.
Don't know how much Hoopla you need to go through to access Hoopla, but it's on Hoopla.
Okay.
Or in Hoopla? Through Hoopla. Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Anyway, I was looking over the Facebook, and there doesn't seem to be anything much to discuss.
Okay.
So we might jump straight.
No, we can't.
We can't?
No. So we'll jump to the next segment before we jump straight.
The following segment is sitting on my head. Please get off my head.
So here we are in the Untitled segment.
That's right, and it is only going to be very brief because we do need to wrap up the question of which are the other two.
Oh, right.
Okay, we're on the same page now.
Yep.
The other two Sidney Lumet films, other than Failsafe, that are on the shelf. One of which Thomas has marked as wanting to watch, and that is 12 Angry Men.
Mm-hmm.
Which we have both watched together, I believe.
No, I've not seen it.
You've not?
No.
Sure you did.
I know how it goes, because
Right.
you look up these things, because it's an important film, and
Yes.
you haven't... Yeah.
Okay. The one that I have marked as wanting to watch is the 1988 Running on Empty with River Phoenix. Yes, I'm quite looking forward to when that pops up. But those both will be a random thing. So.
And like I said, nobody really got in touch this week.
No.
So
No, we're feeling terribly neglected.
If you do want to get in touch, there's places in the show notes.
Yes.
Or on Anchor. I'm pretty sure we have it set up to take audio messages.
We do. You can pop an audio message on there, and
hopefully one of us will notice wherever it is.
yeah. It's happened once, and I think I got notified that it happened once. So,
who knows?
Who knows? Hey, we're new at this.
Yeah.
Because we've only been doing it for how long, Thomas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there is something
totally
to this
forgot.
segment.
Yeah. So, this is the closest point to our collective 2-year podcast anniversary.
Wow, 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel I've known you a lot longer than that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only 2 years.
A week ago was about when you posted the pilot.
Okay. Yep. So,
And then a week later, hadn't won anything.
no. Oh, well.
Well, a week later, the contest hadn't finished yet, had it?
No, but certainly, and certainly didn't expect it to. The problem with road competitions is that they are very heavily weighted to people who have large amounts of money to make brilliant stuff, as is the case with their short film competitions, and yeah, it's who's got the money. And the talent, I will certainly the talent, but also the money to make the best use of that talent. So, yeah.
Which is not to say that we have any problem with Rode.
No, absolutely not.
They're a very good Australian manufacturer of microphones and audio equipment, and just top notch.
And just for entering, and that was. To put it bluntly, that was the only reason I really entered, was the fact that if you were in the first 150 to enter that particular podcast competition, you'd get a free microphone set, lapel mic set. Lavaliers, yes. And so I got that, and I was quite happy with that, even though I still haven't opened them because I haven't needed to use them.
Yeah, because...
I already had to.
Yeah.
Well, the mics can still be used the way that I use the other mics, so yeah. Anyway.
The film project happened, and then sometime later, this happened.
Yes, that's right. The horse came before the cart. Yes. Okay, so Sidney Lumet is out of the way. Our anniversary is now officially recognised and acknowledged, and hip hip hooray. Popping of party poppers, sound effect insert here.
Yep.
And
2 years and over 2 years of content left to go.
well, we'd better move on then.
Yes.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
I believe it is your turn.
It is my turn.
Are you going to continue in the trend that you're following, or do you?
After the order that got slightly switched around last time,
Yep.
I am now left with a comedy.
Yes.
And a very violent film.
Extremely violent film. It is, in fact, the only Australian R-rated film that exists in the house, and has come out as a possibility for this podcast.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I bought it my fault.
Yes. I should point out that I have already seen it.
And I know roughly how it goes because it's an important film, and you look these things up when you don't have ready access.
Yes. So, are you going to continue on the trend, or are you going to random shake? Or?
So, if we were going on trend,
yep.
then the next one would be the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the next chronologically. But the trend is sort of broken, and so I'm going to flip a coin.
Oh, okay. So you're going to flip a coin between those two. You're not going to throw them into the mix. Okay.
Somebody's going to make a cameo here. Heads the comedy. Okay, Google, flip a coin.
You got heads.
Heads it is. Don't know if that came through.
I could hear it just in my headphones. I shall increase the gain for...
Great. Heads it is. It's
Which
the comedy.
means what? It's the comedy.
It's the comedy. Okay.
I'm trying to remind myself which one it was. I did look earlier today.
Released by MGM.
Yes.
Also 20th Century Fox, though I'm assuming MGM still have the distribution on that. Yes. Starring Mel Brooks. It's set in space.
Oh, okay.
And the other word in the title is balls.
Language? Oh, great. Now I'm going to have to make it a mature episode.
Only if you treat it that way.
Okay.
The film is Spaceballs.
It is.
All one word.
I shall be interested to see what you think of this. I should be interested to see what I think of it. Because I was not very... I was in my teens when I watched it, and I cannot really remember what my opinion was of it. Yeah. So, Spaceballs. Do you want to read the plot synopsis of Spaceballs?
I would love to read the plot synopsis of Spaceballs if it was in the database.
It's not?
It's not. And the picture, which is...
Oh, it's
I
got
think,
the New Zealand...
Yeah, that's a New Zealand cover there. Doesn't have the back.
All right.
So,
we're going to have to fix that, aren't we? Okay.
Assuming we do.
Hey, it's your disc.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. You've got the software on your computer?
I do.
Okay. I'm sure you can do that then. Anyway, we have rambled on for way too long.
Yeah, there's stuff to cut in there, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I'm just now getting the shakes, so this seems like a good point.
Yes. Okay. Well, we shall wrap it up then. We hope that you can join us next week when we watch Spaceballs. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
We hope that you can join us next week when we watch Spaceballs. But until then, it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.
Good. And we'll catch you next time.
Is that how that goes?
It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from him. Or something. Yes, I can't remember. Two Ronnies. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Well, now we're past it. I'll say bye, but we're past it now.
We
So
are. Although you have left a large amount of lead-up music before the
well, you can
credits.
you can fade it up wherever you want.
I wouldn't dare.
No, I don't care. It's a very long piece of lead up.
No, every single note of that ukulele playing, I wouldn't dare cut.
Right, there we go. That's all we've got time for. So it's good night from me,
and then good night from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Oh dear. Good night.
Good night.